So here's the deal. Humanity, unarmed, unprepared, and honestly just trying to keep our coffee hot. Then, out of nowhere, the Galactic Council, those aliens who think they know everything, declare war on us. But here's where they messed up, humans. We don't need fancy technology or huge muscles to take down an empire. All we need is a bunch of underdogs, some duct tape, and a really bad attitude. And trust me, they're gonna wish they hadn't poked the bear. Let me introduce you to Lieutenant Alex Reeves. Don't let the lieutenant part fool you. He's not some heroic space savior. He's not running around the galaxy fighting evil alien empires or making speeches about human greatness. No, Alex is a janitor, well, technically, a space maintenance specialist. He's the guy in charge of making sure the Galactic Concord flagship is spotless. While the bigwigs are busy discussing how to conquer planets and make grand speeches, Alex is there, with his mop bucket, trying to keep the place looking clean enough to impress the aliens. And let's be real, this is not the glamorous life of a soldier or diplomat. At best, he's a glorified cleaner. But what Alex lacks in physical stature, he's barely tall enough to reach the knee of most alien dignitaries. He makes up for with his razor-sharp sarcasm, dry humor, and the kind of stubbornness that only comes from years of cleaning up after everyone else. He's been in the trenches, the janitor's closet, but is doing the work no one else wants to do. And somehow, that's what makes him the perfect candidate to handle the biggest mess the galaxy has ever seen. Because here's the thing, if you can survive years of cleaning up after aliens, dealing with their weird food and bizarre customs, you can handle just about anything. And trust me, Alex is about to handle a lot more than a spilled drink or a dirty floor. The Galactic Council, made up of a bunch of so-called enlightened alien species, decided humanity was a threat. Yeah, you heard that right, humanity. Now, before we get all worked up about it, let's pause and talk about the mind-boggling arrogance these aliens had. They didn't think they were picking a fight with some low-level species. Oh no, they believed they were dealing with a bunch of primitives, barely scraping by on a few basic tools and some outdated technology. In their mind, we were just good for one thing, kicking up dust and looking cute. Well, apparently, after their brilliant intelligence gathering, aka asking around and making a bunch of assumptions, they concluded that we humans were just some dangerous species with an itch for war. But let me tell you something, we don't have a thing for war. We just don't know how to back down when someone's throwing punches at us. But here's the real kicker. They didn't even bother to understand our level of capability. Instead, they just looked at our primitive weapons, bombs, missiles, and good old-fashioned firearms and said, yeah, these guys are nothing. We're totally in control now. I'm no scientist, but these aliens must have missed the memo on one thing. Humans, when underestimated, become dangerous. Our technology might not have been shiny and new like theirs, but we had a different kind of weapon they totally didn't count on. Resourcefulness. Sure, we didn't have laser guns that could incinerate entire cities in seconds or ships that could zip across the galaxy in the blink of an eye, but we had something else, an uncanny ability to improvise and adapt. And that's exactly what we did when the Council came knocking, ready to wipe us out. They probably thought that with their superior technology and elevated knowledge, they could just swat us down like we were a fly buzzing around their heads. But here's the thing about flies. No matter how many times you swat, some just keep buzzing back. And that's the problem the Council didn't account for. They couldn't imagine that humans, with all our so-called flaws, could stand up to their might. They saw our tech and thought, this'll be an easy win, but they didn't see us. They didn't see the quiet confidence in the humans who've spent centuries surviving everything the universe could throw at us. So, what did the Council do? They declared war on us. Not out of necessity, not because we were truly a threat, but because they just couldn't believe that a species with such basic technology could pose any danger to their self-proclaimed dominance. This wasn't some strategic move or a well-thought-out plan. They declared war because they thought they could just eliminate us without even breaking a sweat. In their mind, they were dealing with a species so primitive they didn't even deserve the time of day. And that's where they made their biggest mistake. You see, when you underestimate a species like humanity, you're not just underestimating their technology or their capabilities, you're underestimating their willpower. Humans don't back down. We're like that annoying little sibling who never gets the hint. When the aliens thought they could push us around, they didn't realize that they were poking the wrong bear. And while they were busy making their big speeches and planning their easy victory, we were getting ready to show them exactly why underestimating humanity is a very bad idea. So, what did we do when these so-called superior aliens tried to wipe us out? We didn't panic. We didn't hide. No, we did what humans do best. We laughed and hit back harder than they ever expected. The aliens thought they could crush us because we didn't have their shiny toys and fancy technology. But what they didn't know is that we've always been resourceful. Sure, we might not have had laser beams that could turn a planet into a pile of ash, or spaceships that can fly faster than light. What we did have, though, was a whole lot of determination and the kind of cleverness that only a species who's been fighting for survival for centuries could have. We had something better than their big guns or high-tech toys. We had and trust me, that's the kind of weapon the Council wasn't ready for. They thought they'd waltz in, destroy us in an instant, and call it a day. But instead, they got something they never expected. Humans thinking on their feet. We don't need a whole army of lasers or giant battle cruisers when we've got quick thinking and an uncanny ability to make things work in impossible situations. You see, when you underestimate a human, it's not just dangerous because they're strong or clever, it's dangerous because they can improvise like no one else. Give us a broken spaceship, a few tools, and a little bit of time, and we'll turn it into a weapon that'll make you wish you never crossed us. That's exactly what we did when the council threw down the gauntlet. We didn't just fight back, we flipped the script and made them question everything they thought they knew about us. And let's be real, that's where the fun started. The aliens, with their big egos and advanced tech, thought they had us figured out. But they didn't count on human creativity, the ability to take the simplest things and turn them into game changers. While they were busy waiting for us to fall apart, we were piecing together the pieces of our survival. What the council didn't realize was that we didn't need their high-tech weapons to fight back. We didn't even need advanced strategies. We just needed our brains and the will to do whatever it took. And that's what made us so dangerous. The more they tried to push us down, the harder we pushed back. We turned their assumptions into their biggest mistake. It wasn't about fighting fire with fire. It was about using the human way of turning a bad situation into something completely unexpected. And with every move we made, with every strategy we pulled out of our sleeves, the aliens realized that they weren't fighting a weak, primitive species. They were up against a species that had the ability to outthink them, outsmart them, and leave them scratching their heads wondering how the heck they just lost to a bunch of humans. Alright, let's get into the first big fight. The aliens thought they had us cornered. Sure, they thought we were done for, that we'd just fall apart the second they made their move. But you know what? That's exactly what they didn't count on. They expected us to fight their way, with big weapons and fancy ships, but instead, we showed them what humans are really good at, thinking outside the box. And here's the kicker. We didn't even have to fire a single shot. Well, okay, maybe, just a couple. But it wasn't about the weapons. It was about how we took their so-called advanced systems and turned them into our advantage. While they were all up in their fancy command centers, thinking they were about to win, we got to work. We hacked into their systems with nothing but our basic tech. That's right, while they were busy figuring out how to use their super weapons, we were over here making their own stuff turn against them. You should have seen their faces when their weapons started firing in the wrong direction. They had no clue what was going on. Meanwhile, we were just sitting back, sipping coffee, watching their entire operation fall apart. And you know what? It was glorious. That's the human way victory, through sheer unpredictability. They didn't see it coming. They thought they were dealing with a primitive species who couldn't even get their tech together. But we showed them that we're more than just some weaklings with guns. We're resourceful. And when we're pushed to the limit, we'll take what little we have and turn it into something unstoppable. The aliens were so focused on their advanced weapons, they didn't even think to check if their systems were secure. That's the kind of mistake that comes from underestimating humans. And the best part? We didn't even need a big army to do it, just a few people with some basic knowledge of technology and a lot of guts. They thought they'd walk right over us, but instead, we flipped the entire battle in our favor. And while they were trying to figure out why their ships were malfunctioning and their weapons were shooting in all the wrong directions, we were already thinking about the next move. It's just what we do. When we're losing, we improvise. And that's what made us such a dangerous species to the aliens. We didn't need to match them in firepower. We just needed to use our brains, and that's exactly what we did at Arcturus. And trust me, the aliens learned real quick that humans don't go down without a fight, especially when we're armed with nothing more than our wits. The aliens just couldn't wrap their heads around Earth culture. They were confused by pretty much everything. Let's start with our food because, apparently, they thought our culinary choices were something out of a nightmare. Take pizza, for example. Sure, we love it, but to the Zacators Dominion, it might as well have been an alien weapon. When they saw a slice of pepperoni, they literally recoiled like it was some kind of spicy death bread. I mean, are you kidding me? It's just pizza. But no, they were terrified. They couldn't understand how humans could eat something so dangerous. I guess they didn't get the whole concept of flavor. Meanwhile, I'm over here thinking, yeah, we eat this stuff every day, and you're scared of a slice of pizza. If that's what they think is dangerous, maybe they need to stick to their kale salads and bland foods that don't challenge their delicate stomachs. Then there was our humor. Oh boy, you'd think aliens would get jokes, right? But no, they didn't even understand sarcasm. I told one of them, oh, you guys must be so advanced. I bet you can even teleport your thoughts. And they just stared at me like I'd spoken in ancient hieroglyphs. I had to explain that sarcasm is a way of saying the opposite of what you mean. But even then, they couldn't get it. They looked at me like I was playing some strange Earth game, trying to trick them with my deceptive words. Honestly, it was exhausting. I mean, we're over here cracking jokes about life and death, and they're still trying to figure out why we put pineapple on pizza. And don't even get me started on our music. When I tried to explain rock and roll, they thought it was some kind of violent ritual. What's this rock you speak of? Is it from the planet Earth, or a weapon from your ancient past? Like, come on, guys. It's just a genre of music. You wouldn't know what to do with a guitar riff if it hit you in the face. All these aliens had no clue how to handle anything about Earth. And the funniest part? They thought their food, their customs, and their ways were somehow superior to ours. I mean, we're the species they wanted to wipe out, but they couldn't even handle a simple Earth pizza or a rock concert. If that's how advanced they are, maybe they should stick to their bland, tasteless food and boring conversations. But hey, at least they made us laugh. And honestly, that's something humans are pretty good at, laughing at things that are just plain ridiculous. Alright, so let's be honest. Here I started this whole thing as a janitor. Yup, you heard that right? Just a regular guy with a mop and bucket, cleaning up after a bunch of aliens who probably couldn't even spell cleanup. But here's the thing, when the council declared war on us, something clicked. Suddenly, I wasn't just mopping floors anymore. I was part of something bigger. I became a key player in humanity's fight back against these superior aliens. Sure, I didn't have fancy weapons or superpowers, but I had something better. Human spirit. That's right, I had the kind of guts that only someone who spent years doing the dirty work can have. No one expected me to rise up, and that's exactly why they didn't see me coming. I wasn't just the guy cleaning up alien messes anymore. I was the one who'd make them regret ever thinking we were weak. Humans, we don't have all the fancy gadgets or super advanced tech. What we have is a knack for thinking on our feet and using what we've got in ways that no one expects. It's like we've got this weird superpower that kicks in when the odds are stacked against us. And sure, we might not have the most impressive looking weapons, but you know what? We fight smart. When the aliens tried to take us out, we didn't just sit back and hope for a miracle. We improvised, we adapted, and we used whatever we could to our advantage. While they were waiting for us to crumble, we were coming up with ways to turn their fancy tech into a joke. The best part, it wasn't just about fighting, it was about winning. And that's what we did. We made the galaxy's so-called top species look like amateurs. We didn't need to match their weapons or their ships. All we needed was our brains and the ability to turn any situation into something unpredictable. Every time the aliens thought they had us pinned down, we found a way to turn it around. They thought they were dealing with a bunch of primitive, powerless humans, but they didn't realize we had a different kind of power. We didn't need to blow up their cities or crush their fleets. What we did was a lot worse for them. We turned their own technology against them. We outsmarted them at every turn, and we made them look foolish in front of the whole galaxy. And that's how we became the galaxy's newest nightmare. Not by winning through brute force, but by winning through sheer unpredictability. We didn't fight fair, and that's what made us dangerous. The more the aliens pushed, the more we pushed back. We didn't back down. We didn't give up. And most importantly, we didn't just survive, we thrived. And that's how the human hero's journey began. From a janitor with a mop to a leader in the fight for humanity's future. Maybe we weren't the biggest, or the strongest, or the most advanced, but we had one thing the council didn't. We had heart. And that's exactly what made us unstoppable. The aliens thought they had it all figured out. They'd been conquering planets for centuries, and they were so confident in their power that they just assumed victory was guaranteed. They had their fancy weapons, their advanced tech, and their superior tactics, so, when the final showdown came, they were sure we'd go down without a fight. They were wrong. Dead wrong. We didn't need their fancy stuff. No lasers, no giant battle cruisers, just some good old-fashioned human ingenuity. And let me tell you, it didn't take much. We started with the basics, things the aliens never even considered. It wasn't about being stronger or more advanced. It was about being clever. Humanity excels at thinking outside the box. While the aliens were expecting some epic space battle, we hit them with tactics that made no sense to them. We used things like misinformation, distractions, and even a little bit of Earth's basic survival tactics. The aliens. They were completely speechless. They had no idea what hit them. They were used to battling other species who followed their predictable rules. But us, we don't follow the rules. That's what makes us so dangerous. We started using all kinds of bizarre strategies that left the aliens completely confused. I mean, one moment they were planning to take out our fleet, and the next moment, they were chasing shadows. We used their own tech against them. Things they thought were foolproof suddenly started malfunctioning. They couldn't believe it. How could a bunch of primitive humans outsmart them so easily? But here's the thing about us humans. We fight dirty, and we fight smart. We don't just use brute force. We use our brains. And while the aliens were waiting for us to come at them with guns blazing, we were out here with weird tricks that left them scratching their heads. And the best part? We didn't just confuse them, we made them doubt their own superiority. These aliens had been conquering the galaxy for centuries, and yet here they were, stumbling over things as simple as a human distraction or a cheap piece of tech we pulled out of nowhere. They were used to winning, but now they were losing to a species they thought was beneath them. Imagine the shock on their faces when their perfect systems started breaking down because of the humblest human tactics. They were baffled. They thought they had all the answers. But we showed them that maybe the answer wasn't in advanced weapons or technology. Maybe it was in human resilience. the ability to keep pushing forward even when the odds are stacked against you. And while they were busy trying to figure out how a bunch of humans with old tech had gotten the best of them, we were making the next move. We weren't just winning, we were outthinking them, confusing them, and flipping their entire strategy on its head. The best part? The aliens had no idea how to handle it. For the first time in a long time, they were faced with an enemy they couldn't predict, and that left them absolutely speechless. This battle wasn't about being stronger or having the most impressive weapons. It was about taking the aliens out of their comfort zone, making them question everything they thought they knew about war. And that, my friends, is how you win. A war not with sheer force, but with unpredictability. And that's exactly what we did. The final battle. Oh, it was the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. The Alien Council, those self-proclaimed galactic geniuses, thought they were in full control. They had all the power, all the tech, and all the fancy ships. And yet, they couldn't even see how they were about to get completely out. Here's the thing, we didn't need their fancy toys or mind-blowing weapons. What we had was something they completely underestimated: our brains. And let me tell you, it wasn't even close. The Council had been planning their perfect attack for ages, and they thought that no matter what we did, we'd fall apart. But they were so focused on their shiny tech and strategic moves that they completely ignored the simplest thing. Humans are unpredictable. So, we played them. We didn't charge at them with everything we had, or try to outgun them with the few weapons we had left. Instead, we just made everything confusing, for them really confusing. While they were expecting a straight-up battle, we started hitting them with stuff they didn't even understand. The more they tried to stay on top of things, the more they slipped up. We didn't need to be stronger or faster, we just had to think smarter than them. They couldn't figure out how their systems kept failing. They had all this technology, and it was supposed to be unbeatable, but somehow, human ingenuity, kept breaking their plans. We threw them off balance with things that seemed totally ridiculous to them. Basic Earth tricks, simple distractions, and unexpected tactics. At one point, they were so confused they started second-guessing their own strategies. The Council thought they could easily crush us, but instead, they were caught up in their own confusion. They were so busy trying to figure out why their high-tech weaponry wasn't working, that they couldn't even see us outsmarting them at every turn. And that's when the magic happened. The Council started to fall apart, not because they were weaker, but because they were completely outwitted. They couldn't handle the idea that we didn't need their technology or their advanced battle plans. We didn't need to match their power. We just needed to outthink them, and that's exactly what we did. The more they tried to bring us down, the more we just turned their own moves against them. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. We had already won, and they were left standing there, completely baffled by how they lost to a bunch of primitive humans. And let's be real, that's the best part. We didn't beat them with brute force or bigger weapons. We beat them with our minds. And no matter how advanced their tech was, no alien could ever understand that. They were so used to winning through power and might that they couldn't even fathom losing to a species that used nothing but clever thinking and good old-fashioned chaos. The Council fell, not because we were stronger or more advanced, but because we had something they couldn't even comprehend: a mind that doesn't quit. And as the dust settled, we realized the truth. It wasn't about being the biggest or the toughest, it was about being the smartest. And that's the one thing they could never understand. The final blow wasn't even a shot fired, it was the sheer shock of being outplayed by a species they thought was too dumb to fight back. So, here we are, humanity, legends in our own right. You know, we might not have had the biggest guns, the flashiest ships, or the sharpest claws, but we had something that made us more dangerous than any of that tower: sheer will to mess with the universe. And let's be honest, that's what makes us dangerous. We don't just take things as they come. No, we push back. We get creative. We use what we have, no matter how little it seems, and turn it into something that shocks even the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Alien Council thought they could wipe us out with their fancy technology and centuries of experience. But what they didn't count on was the human spirit. The one thing no alien species could ever predict was our ability to think on our feet, to adapt to any situation and use it to our advantage. While they were busy worrying about their ships and weapons, we were over here messing with their minds, outwitting them at every turn. And here's the kicker. We didn't even have to be the strongest to win. We just had to be smarter. And that's exactly what we did. We didn't follow the rules. We didn't play by their game. We made up our own rules as we went along, and that's what turned us into legends. It's not about size or strength, it's about the will to fight when no one else believes in you. The galaxy might have seen us as weak, but we showed them that being underestimated is actually a pretty great advantage. In the end, humanity didn't just survive, we thrived. And that, my friends, is what makes us legendary. So, next time someone looks at us and thinks we're just a bunch of monkeys with bad tech, remember this: we're the species that took down an entire galactic council, and we did it with nothing more than our brains, some duct tape, and a whole lot of guts. And that's what makes us the most dangerous species in the galaxy. So, yeah, humanity, legends. Next time someone tells you that humans are weak or primitive, just remind them, You're talking about the species that brought down an entire galactic council with nothing more than some duct tape, quick thinking, and a whole lot of attitude. We didn't need fancy tech or big muscles, we just needed to outsmart them. If you think humans are the real deal, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Trust me, this war, it's only just getting started, and humanity's only getting warmed up.